Happy Friday, guys. It is March 12th, 2021. This month is flying by just like all of them. Can't believe we're the third day in trimester three, and we really only have a couple months of school left, which is crazy to me. But our aim today is that we will be able to describe the factors that gave to the rise of Christianity in medieval Europe. Um, During this time, Christianity really takes a boost up, and we're going to talk today and Monday about how that happened. So the intro and the do now is going to take about 2 to 5 minutes, and then notes will take about 10 minutes. Guided practice will take about 10, probably a little bit less, and then the rest of the time you'll spend on the independent practice. Today is National Working Moms Day, so if your mom is a working mom, you definitely need to tell her thank you today for all that she does. She works really, really hard to put food on the table for you and to give you everything you need and everything you want. So make sure that if you see your mom today or when you see your mom today, if she's working mom, that you tell her thank you for all that she does because today's National Day for her. Moms do a lot for all of us, and if moms didn't work, then we might not have all the things that we need. So definitely big shout out to working moms today. For your do now, you have 5 multiple choice questions over the last 2 days. So there's one couple questions about geography and the rest particularly about yesterday's lesson. So you want to go ahead and pause the video and answer these 5 multiple choice questions that review yesterday's section. So go ahead and pause. All right, so if you are looking at your screen, which you should be, you always should be, the physical features of Earth's surface are called its sea topography. If you looked in your notes or you remember from your notes from Wednesday, that was a key word. Topography is just the physical features of an Earth's surface. Most of Europe's early cities developed near A major rivers. If you were stuck on this question, this would be a good one to just think about previous knowledge and previous units because we know in history that people need water, so they're most likely going to settle near water. And your 2 options for that are really oceans, lakes, or rivers. And we don't see lakes or oceans on this list. And so, well, we do see the Black Sea, but the Black Sea is not in Europe. It's in towards the, well, it's in Eastern Europe, but we know that most of Europe's early cities developed near major rivers like the Rhine and the Danube. Who defeated the last Roman army in Western Europe? That would be Clovis the First. The Jutes and the Saxons were Germanic tribes that were in war against each other, so they would not defeat the last Roman army. Charlemagne wasn't even around yet when the last Roman army was defeated. And so even by process elimination, if you weren't sure, that would be Clovis the First. What did Charlemagne think would help unite his kingdom? That would be C, creating schools. He really believed in education and that education was power and that education would bring people together and ultimately help his empire and kingdom expand. Because you want educated people, and people that are educated and can read and write can communicate more, thus uniting them, and then helping them be able to work together to expand the kingdom. So definitely would be C. And then Charlemagne worked with the Catholic Church to spread Christianity. So he was buddies with the Pope. He saved the Pope from basically being excommunicated and essentially executed. But he did that because he really believed in Christianity and he wanted to spread that religion. And with that, also, he kind of got a perk out of it because the Pope then named him emperor, and he was then ordained by the Pope and became extremely powerful because he was ordained by the top, there's God and then there's the Pope, essentially. So he really kind of gained that reputation and gained that extra power, that extra boost because the Pope named him emperor. All right, so our keywords today, we've got quite a few, but they're pretty important. Well, they're all important. If they weren't important, I wouldn't put them on here. but a lot of them are kind of similar. So we're working with religion, so all of our words are obviously going to be religious words. And the first word is monastery. And this is a secluded community where monks, which are men, focus on prayer and scripture. So it's really, they kind of just isolate themselves. A lot of people, when they hear the term monastery, especially younger kids, they think of like the Karate Kid, where the monks, like when, I don't know if the newer ones, like, with like Jaden Smith have these scenes, but in the older ones, they like take him to a monastery and he hangs out with the monks and learns how to do all the moves and like center himself and become like spiritual and things like that. And so people kind of think of monasteries as like kind of like Asian, South Asian, kind of, like, the robes with the shaved head and things like that. Where in Europe, monasteries or monks, not monasteries, monks looked very different. They did wear the robes, but they did have hair and they were European. Um, and they actually did shave their head. Their hairstyle was rather odd. So it looks like a full head of hair that would come down like this, but then the top, like right here, would be shaved and bald. So they'd have like this huge bald circle here, but then like hair. So it's rather odd. Um, but that would be the place where they would pray and focus on scripture. Um, and their day was really guided by prayer. A convent is basically the same thing, but it's for nuns, which are women. That's really important to know the difference between monks and nuns. When I get stuck, or when I would get stuck, I would just remember monks, men, MM, monks, men. And then nuns are just women. Catholic nuns you'll often see with the habit. So you can see in that picture here, if you want to blow it up, you can, but they're wearing the right white robe. Sometimes they're black with the headpiece on. Pagan is a follower of a polytheistic religion. Some people take paganism and they spin it to be a negative term and have it associated with like witchcraft or things like that, which is absolutely false. It's just someone that follows a polytheistic religion. So initially, the Greeks were pagan, the Romans were pagan, all of those people were pagan because they believed in multiple gods. And then this picture is just the symbol for paganism, but then there's Stonehenge because Stonehenge was a monument built. We don't know how it was built exactly because the stones are so massive, and I think we've looked at pictures of that before. But it's believed to have built by polytheistic followers. A missionary is someone who tries to convert a person into a specific religion. So what we're going to see here is we're going to see a lot of Christian missionaries that are going to travel the world or particularly Europe at this point, trying to get people to convert to Christianity, trying to convince them that this is the best religion for them and that they should follow it. And a saint is an ordained or named holy person. So we think about when you're thinking about Christianity, you're thinking about which today we're going to talk about Saint Patrick, who was actually everyone's like, oh, Saint Patrick's Day. Da, da, da. Yeah, Saint Patrick was an actual person, and he helped spread Christianity throughout Ireland and helped pave the way for other people to start spreading Christianity throughout the rest of Europe. All right, so this is just a layout of a monastery, what it would look like. I thought it would be interesting for you to see. You can go through this on your own, but you can see, just so you know, the abbey is the main church of the monastery. But it does have like a dormitory. The monasteries were interesting and convents were interesting because they were very self-sufficient. Because they were so secluded, they didn't rely on the outside world. They just depended on themselves, and that's all they needed. They didn't need anything else. So you can take a look at that. And then just for quick practice, I'd like you to answer these two questions after you observe the map. One, summarize the spread of Christianity. So you're going to look at that key. And then interaction, which areas of Europe were mostly Muslim during this time. So you want to go ahead and pause the video and answer these two questions, and then we will come back. Guess I didn't do that. All right, well, we're gonna have to do that together, huh? All right, so number one, questions in the box to the left. Summarize the spread of Christianity. So if I look at my key, it says mostly Christian AD 475, and then mostly Christian by AD 1050. So I see this orange here. So that's our mostly Christian in 475. And then I see this peach color that goes all the way out here by 1050. So we can say Christianity spread east throughout east and north throughout Europe. And then number two, which areas of Europe are mostly Muslim? So mostly Muslim is outlined by this pink. So I'm going to look for that. So I can see here, this is like the Middle East, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So I see North Africa, I see Spain, I see, and they even tell you it's Muslim Spain, and then some parts of Italy too. So we can say mostly Muslim would be Spain, oops, Spain, Northern Africa, and parts, well, let's just do this because it's not Northern Africa. So go ahead and pause and get that down. So I will be making sure you have that. Well, I make sure you have everything, but people like to skip this stuff and then they lose points. All right, so we are going to read a little bit for guided practice and then you'll be on your own. But you want to think about the following questions when you're reading. What did monks and nuns do? And then describe the Benedictine rule. So monasteries and convents. During the early Middle Ages, some Christian men and women chose lives of religious study and prayer. In time, those people formed monasteries and convents. A monastery is a secluded community where men called monks focus on prayer and scripture. A convent is a religious community for women and nuns, known as nuns. Monks and nuns devote their lives to spiritual goals. This is extremely important. Monks and nuns just devote their lives to spiritual goals. The Benedictine rule. The first Christian monasteries developed in Egypt in the late AD 300s or 300 CE. Later, an Italian monk named Benedict established a new European version of monastic life. About 529, Benedict organized a monastery in central Italy. There he created a series of rules for monastic life. In time, these rules, known as the Benedictine rule, were adopted by monasteries and convents throughout Europe. Under the Benedictine rule, monastic life was a shared experience that balanced prayer and work. Monks and nuns made vows or solemn promises to live and worship within their communities for the rest of their lives. They also promised to obey their leaders, work for the good of their community, remain unmarried, and own nothing individually. So I want you to pause the video and I would like you to answer questions 1 and 2. Alrighty, so what did monks and nuns do? They devoted their lives to God and spiritual goals, which I actually kind of pointed it out to you while we were reading that last sentence of this first paragraph. And then describe the Benedictine rule. The Benedictine rule was a set of rules for monastic life set up by the Italian monk Benedict. So I can find that right here, or actually right here. You don't need to go in too much detail here. I know some people probably wanted to put like they promised to obey and things like that, but you don't need all of those things. So you can go ahead and pause and then get that down. Here is your independent practice, and you can start. You're going to read more about daily life in monasteries. And then start the conversion of Europe and about St. Patrick, and continue reading about St. Patrick. And then you will be done for the week. And then Monday we will continue to talk about the conversion of Europe and how Christianity spread throughout the rest of Europe. And then we will dive into some other things next week. But you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all next week.